But a lot to get to here in this A block. I think the first place we have to start is where the hockey world has been fixated on, and that's Columbus, and specifically the situation with Pierre-Luc Dubois, benched after a lackadaisical first period, the first few shifts. Before we get their take, let's listen to John Tortorella.
Last night, he doesn't get benched for one shift of last night. This says he eroded, and it just kept on eroding in the first 5 games. And I think a lot of people are putting a bigger deal to it because of the extenuating circumstances with it. You guys can do that. I'm just coaching athletes, and I will not allow our standard of play and our culture and how we go about our business here change. And we got to keep on growing, because that's how we have survived in this league and trying to be a better team in this league and getting into playoffs and hopefully someday progressing in playoffs.
I have to be better, and I have to be, better in a lot of aspects: offensively, defensively, back checking, forechecking, face-offs, power play, you name it. It's not the level I want it to be at. I only have one job, and it's to go out there and help the team win.
There's no more meetings. The rhetoric is done. You can have meetings to have meetings and follow through. Rhetoric is rhetoric. Actions are what I'm looking for.
So Torts and Dubois meeting with the media today and talking about this situation. It wasn't just one game, as Torts said. This has been building and building for a long, long time, Rupper. You played for that man for 2 seasons. To hear what he's saying and then also watch what is happening on the ice with Dubois, what comes to mind?
He just mentioned there the standard that he demands of his players. Some of the greatest stories we've seen in the last couple of years have revolved around that Columbus Blue Jackets team, with taking out one of the best teams ever to play in the NHL, was that regular season team of the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? That would have never happened without that standard of play. They didn't win by skill. They didn't win by a fluke. They won by a work ethic. And that is not being met right now with Pierre-Luc Dubois, and we got some video of it. And there's been some parts, and we didn't get all of it here, but I went back and watched the shifts. Dano, we'll get you what you got to say on this too. It's just not, it's not good enough. You can't sacrifice what you've cultivated there for 5 years that John Tortorella's been there, and let it all slide and disappoint 22 other guys on the roster because one guy's not into it. And let's take a look. A lot of straight leg. Look at that straight leg from the red line in. It's just the effort wasn't there. You could have bad hockey with a good effort, and you could be okay. But it's just circling. He was circling everywhere he was supposed to be as a center iceman. He wasn't. The effort wasn't there, and that puts the team in a really bad spot. And it puts this Columbus Blue Jackets players in a bad spot. And right here, this is probably the end of it right here. Just going there, just no effort on that battle. And Mike Kelly brought up a great stat that Stu Grimson told me, is that when you look at the advanced stats from last year, Pierre-Luc Dubois is a top 10 player in the league for puck battles won. Didn't look like it there.
No.
So, again, young player, you got to learn, but you can't let your team down in a game situation like that.
There were some nights I remember where I thought I played well and was working pretty hard, and then the coach told me the video doesn't lie. And what we just saw there, Pierre-Luc Dubois is not working the way John Tortorella, the head coach, would like him to, and rightfully so. Now, certain coaches are more demanding than others, Rupper, and you play for John Tortorella. He's very demanding. But that's a good thing. That is the reason why the Columbus Blue Jackets have had success and beat the Tampa Bay Lightning that you talked a couple of years ago, the best regular season team ever, that the work ethic always has to be there throughout the lineup. He's a big, strong kid. There's no denying Pierre-Luc Dubois is an unbelievable hockey player. We saw that in the playoffs last year. There's something going on here. There's something brewing. He took responsibility next day in that interview. However, something has to change. And whether he's moved, and they're not going to just trade him for nothing because he's that good of a player, but this isn't the way to go about it, and he certainly has to give a better effort than he did there.
Something that complicates this whole discussion is that we don't know from Dubois' camp the why. There hasn't been a ton of transparency. So the only thing that fans and media can do in this situation is wonder and speculate and guess, which gets you into some muddy waters. I'm not going to ask you to do that, Dano. You played for a tough coach. Rupper played for Torts. You played for Lou. Instead of putting yourself in the coach's shoes, put yourself in a teammate's shoes. And you're kind of seeing this play out the way you have. How's it hit you?
Well, normally players will say, we're going to sorted out internally because we're not a fly on the wall and we don't know exactly kind of what you alluded to, what is transpiring here and what's going on through the mind of Pierre-Luc Dubois here. But as a teammate, it's unacceptable. You take him aside and say, Pierre, we need you. You are one of our best. You are one of our best players, if not our best player, most talented player. You showed that in the playoffs last year. I know you might be unhappy, disgruntled, but give us an honest effort every night. And I'm not sure if the players have taken him aside and talked to him. Good leadership. They have a good leadership in that, a lot of good leadership in their room. I would assume something's been said, Rupper. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, Dally, to go to your question, we don't know the why from his camp. The why doesn't matter to me. I don't care what the reasoning is. You still have a job to do and teammates to hold up your end and your trust with.
Well said.
They're trusting you. And you can't look as far as, you don't have to look far in the lineup. Number one, Foligno goes out and he fights Luke Schenn in that game. So guys are going out there putting themselves on the line, and you can't give an honest effort for them on the turn. But then also, let's not forget some of the off-ice stuff that players go through in this league, and they still show up to play. Foligno's another example with the health of his children that's been in the past. And this guy has fought to get back in the lineup to be there for his teammates. So I've got no sympathy in a situation for not showing up for your teammates, because other guys that have legitimate reasons have come and done that before you.
Lastly, I'll say there's been coaches I had 11 coaches, I believe, throughout my career, something along those lines, 10 or 11 coaches in a 20-year career in New Jersey. I like some better than others. Some liked me better than others. But to be a true professional, you just go out and play and give your most an honest effort every night for your teammates, because that's who you're playing for. You don't have to like your coach, and I'm not saying that's all that's going on here. I don't know. We don't know completely. But for your teammates, give the effort, and eventually, if you are going to be moved, well, you can say, you put your head in the pillow and say, no, I worked my tail off there. It just wasn't working for whatever reason.
Seems like we're at the fork in the road where there's simply two ways this can go. Either he is moved or it clicks for him. And like to your point, Rupper, he figures out at 22 years old as a former number 3 overall pick how to be a professional until things work itself out in that way. And for anybody saying, well, we just saw those shifts, I don't want to trade for him. What did we just see in the NBA? James Harden wasn't playing well, wasn't in great shape.
He's a heck of a player.
Right,
That's the thing. That's the thing. With all that being said, and you would probably come across, I'm not a Pierre-Luc Dubois fan. I actually love him as a player.
Yes.
He is a rarity. I can't believe that what we saw. But with that being said, I don't think this is going to deter anybody from going to get him. The teams are going to line up because there's no centerman in the league that's big, mean, can play like he has, and we haven't seen the ceiling yet.
It's perplexing. It really is.
For sure. And we'll continue to monitor the situation because we are not yet at the determination of which part of that fork we're going to walk down.